Where does all the water go? Something's wrong when I urinate and get less than an ounce of urine coming out, really dark. So I've been drinking fluids for the last 3 days. Lots of fluids. Last night, between the hours of 7 p.m. and 9 p.m., I drank about 3.5 bottles this size because it was really hot. I usually don't drink that much at once. Usually I sip it throughout the day. This morning I had one full bottle as well. And yesterday morning I also had a whole teapot of boiled off water. The day before yesterday I also had quite a bit of water. But yesterday I only urinated at the night and the morning, and both were very short. Today I had less than an ounce of urine come out. Now I have consumed enough water where 3 ounces in 2 days is very, very wrong. So something's going on with my kidneys where they hurt too. So now this is probably because I went back to work with a neurological disorder and not healthcare. Happens to me quite a bit. I get injured, and instead of taking care of my injuries, I go back to work. But that's how I was raised. I get an overdose on the ground, I'm gasping for air, I go unconscious. I'm expected to sleep it off, and I'm not allowed to see the doctor. I talked to the doctor about this overdose that's destroyed my body. No help. I'm sucking on my skin because of this change. No help. Teachers are seeing this change and want to help me. Still no help. Moved to Texas, I tell doctors over there about my physical health. My mother decides to lie to my father. Doctors pull me out of everything and move me. No help. In New Mexico, I'm falling down. I have a seizure outside, but they leave me out there by myself, so I just end up on the ground for 2 hours. Oh, great. No help. Then, after New Mexico, people know that bad stuff happened to me. We go into a courthouse. My father recoups his losses. Do we get me help? Nope. We go to Maine. No teachers, doctors, no help. Today, at the age of, actually I'm 31 now, but at the age of 20, when I'm out in the woods getting injured and I've had a seizure on the side of the road, did they help me? Did they get me an ambulance when I'm screaming, please get me an ambulance because I'm about to fall? And then I fall and go unconscious? No. They pour booze on my back. Then eventually an ambulance picks me up. And then I wake up in the emergency room. Well, I must get help in the emergency room, right? No. They only want to drug test me, but they can't find any drugs. So the nurses and the doctors are confused. Well, we've looked for every drug in the book and we can't find any drugs in this kid. So I wake up and they ask me the stupidest question, why am I sober? Because I'm sober. I'm trying this thing called sobriety. I haven't drinking any alcohol, I haven't used any opiates, and I haven't smoked any marijuana. So that's called sobriety because I haven't done any drugs. No drugs whatsoever. The problem is for about 4 hours I've been asking for an ambulance, falling down, hitting my head, falling down, scraping my knees, falling down, asking for somebody to help me, trying to walk my way all the way to the emergency room. Yes, while needing an emergency ambulance, nobody would get one for me because I'm homeless, so I tried to walk my ass to a hospital while needing an ambulance, and eventually I did not make it. And that is why I am here. Now, what the fuck are you nurses doing? I'm thinking. Oh, we're doing drug testing. Yeah, we're billing you for drug testing. Yeah. Oh, it's not drugs? Well, that's all we know how to do. We're dumbasses who only know how to deal with drugs. So go to the fucking street and have fun with your seizures. So no help there. I bet my file for that one, for that fall slash neurological disorder slash seizure for that day, at the age of about, I don't know, 22, 21, I don't know, something like that. I wonder what the hospital has it down for at that time. Probably unknown condition, found on arrival smelling like alcohol, but no drugs were found, but probably drugs. Something like that is probably what the file says, even though what it should say is found unconscious, found with alcohol on clothing, found to be sober, no drugs in system, no alcohol in blood, no alcohol in breath, alcohol only found on clothing. Person has woken up and said that he is sober, but he has received a fall and has had trouble walking and using his legs. When we've asked the subject to stand up, he falls down and he obviously is not okay to be walking out of here. That's what the file should say. But instead, they just checked me for drugs, couldn't find any drugs, so they released me on the spot, which I fell on the way out. I fell again out front of the building. I fell right in front of the hospital. I'm literally getting injured, needing an emergency ambulance as I leave the emergency hospital. That's how bad this is for the homeless. I will literally have a seizure, hit my head. Who knows how many hours I'm left for there. Ambulance picks me up, brings me to the hospital. I wake up. They're searching me for drugs. They can't find any drugs. No alcohol, nothing. They go, well, it must be just some mental illness, his mother and father say, so let's just get him out of here. So again, I don't get any help. Okay, how about at the age of 31? Nope, still no help. So yeah, I have a neurological disorder, seizures, where I get kind of like the loss of ability of my nervous system. I have trouble using my legs. It's kind of like being numb or having ice. It's like if you stuck your legs in ice for 10 hours, something like that. In the mornings, it always happens. It's been with me for 25 years, so it's not going anywhere. I've never been able to get help for it. And my mother and father, my mother's dead because partly what she was doing. I mean, she was drugging her son. That's why I have a neurological disorder. She was playing doctor and she liked to play around with pills. But what happens when you play around with pills in your son and yourself? Well, your son might have a neurological disorder, seizures, problems moving his body, internal organ damage, brain damage, problems with his esophagus, stomach, things like that. Well, what happens if you play around with pills with yourself? All that list plus liver failure, one of the things your son can go through too, cirrhosis of the liver, jaundice. What happens if you mix those pills with alcohol because you're an adult? Oh, that's definitely cirrhosis, jaundice, and liver failure. If you mix pills with alcohol, that's most likely what's going to happen is you're going to have liver problems. So my mother's mixing pills into her small little child for fun. She's taking pills for fun herself, and she's mixing them with alcohol. What are the consequences for doing that? Your son will be sick. He'll look really skinny. He might have problems eating food. He might vomit a lot. He might be sick a lot. He might have problems moving his body. The teachers and doctors might want him to be in like physical therapy or might start talking about coordination issues. They might want him to get help with a neurologist, and instead your wife puts your son in ballet. Those are things that could happen. And what happens to your wife if she continues popping pills, mixing them with alcohol, playing around with pills with your son? Well, she could experience jaundice and liver failure. And if she continues on that road, then that's death. So yeah, that all happened. We all saw and had to experience that. But my father says it's nothing. There's nothing to see here. My wife died of natural liver failure, of natural alcohol in the hand as my liver failure. So that's my father's opinion, even though I've never seen a person with liver failure drink alcohol as they die. The only time I've ever seen my mother, the last time I saw my mother in the last 3 months, the one time I saw her, there was a martini in her hand. There's alcohol in her hand. Only 20% of her liver's working. She just told the hospital that she wants to come home for a day to see her family. She blew past her family to go straight to a liquor store. Liquor cabinet. She's only been home for like 3 minutes and she already has liquor in her hand. So that's natural, my father said. That has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with why my mother got sick and why she's not around today. So yeah, there's stuff like that that happened. So yeah, that's why I'm having trouble right now, is because when I go to the doctors, I don't get medical care. My last seizure, normally they would have looked into maybe my GI when I said, hey, I think I tore something. Well, normally they look into that tear. But with me, I don't get them looking into anything. I literally have a seizure on the side of the road or a fall, and they're checking me for drugs or mental illnesses. And even though I wake up, I'm like, hey guys, there's no drugs in my system. And the mental illness is made up by my mother. The mental illness stuff is just my mother's fantasies. And the suicide stuff is either from me living in the fucking woods like an animal or from my mother's fantasy book. One or the other. So, guys, I'm telling you, I just fell on the ground. This has been going on for 25 years. This is nothing new. In Westford, you guys were seeing it. In Texas, they were seeing it. In New Mexico, they were seeing it. In Chelmsford, they were seeing it. And in Maine, nobody was allowed to see it. So I would have said Maine, but I was hidden away in Maine. Nobody saw me. My mother locked me away, and no doctors, no teachers, no friends, no family, nobody saw me in Maine or New Mexico. Maine and New Mexico, nobody saw me. Now, there was a couple staff member in New Mexico, so I said there because they did see it. In New Mexico, the staff members did see me shake, fall, have problems with my movement, try to throw something to the right and it goes to the left. But when it's warm, I do better. Also, people know that. During the warm weather, I do great. When it's warm out, I'm wearing a jacket because it's a little windy, but other people think it's really hot. When it's getting a little windy and chilly, while other people just put on a jacket, I'm falling to the ground or I seem upset. When winter comes, I'm lack of movement, lack of talking. I don't seem to talk very much. I seem upset a lot. I have this thing I call lightning in my back. I seem to fall or have shakes during fireworks and certain activities. I seem to not want to play basketball. I don't want to play football. I don't want to do anything. And if I do try to play football, I have seemed to have a lot of problems here and there that other kids don't have. Like I'm the only kid that has to take a bunch of breaks and I'm on the ground, but yet I do good, and there's all this different stuff going on. I'm falling down, I'm hitting my head, I'm shaking, I'm twitching, my neck is ticking like I'm having tics, I'm having twitches, things like that's been going on from age 7 all the way up. But it all started with an overdose. I wasn't born with it. What ended up happening is things were going great. Like I went to the YMCA during winter, came in first in swim class. I was cold, but no problem. We walked across in the cold air, no problem. I never had any problem with cold or my movement or my skin or my talking. I was just a normal kid learning how to walk, learning how to talk, learning how to swim, learning new concepts, learning new words. Well, then I experienced something I didn't know how to learn, called an overdose, and destroying my nervous system and giving me a neurological disorder. I have some paperwork what basically explains how this works. When people take 6 drugs and give you an overdose at age 5 to 7, and they destroy your brain and nervous system, and they give you a certain type of neurological disorder that's caused by drugs, and too many of them putting into a small child. When you have something like that, it causes the loss of movement, seizures, stuff like that. I did not know this at that time. All I knew